that's how you make an entrance. You guys want to see a magic trick? Check this out. Ta-da! Yes, we have a fan here, and it works beautifully. You can fit a fan behind the radiator on a Banshee. So Steve and I discussed this for some time, and originally we had a plan of putting on like 4 PC fans, small ones, like one down here, one up here, and the same on the other side to give it a lot of cooling. But at last minute I had some reservations about the PC fans. It was originally my idea, not his. And I just told him that, you know, I'm worried they're not going to do well with the weather, any water or dirt getting on them. They might just poop out right away. So I said, let's see if this silly thing will fit. So he purchased the fan and gave it to me. This whole kit, it's from Rocky Mountain. And I'll get into that in a second. And I had him give me some measurements on... We had another friend who has a Banshee, and he put a fan on his, on the front. So I asked him if he could tell me what the dimensions were on that. And I cut a piece of steel 1 inch thick, because this radiator is about 1 inch thick here. So it's not too flat. So I cut a 1 inch piece of tubing at 4 or 4.5, whatever this dimension is, and was playing around with where I could fit it between the frame and the stem. And this was the only location, was right here. And then I realized, oh yeah, it'll fit perfect. All you got to do is notch this tiny part of the gas tank cover, and you won't even notice. So there's good clearance here on the other side of the stem. There's good clearance here on the tank cover. And if I come around and show you, that's what it's going to look like. So it's pretty sweet. It fits and it works. This is that, like I said, this is that kit from Rocky Mountain. And right now I don't have the thermometer shoved into one of the fins for the radiator, because I just welded up that guard on the radiator here. I put this on to go over this part of the fan. That way, if he was catching roost or something, the dirt, rocks, anything, it wouldn't hit the fan blades and jack them up. And he needed some type of protection. So I welded that plate on there real quick, just to give it some protection and help them out. So this is the fan kit from Rocky Mountain. It's the controller, the thermometer, and the fan, and you need to feed 12 volts to it. So I'll show you what I did for this setup. I made this bracket for Steve, and that way he could run his Milwaukee battery. I told him if he gets a DeWalt, it'll go faster, but nonetheless, this will do just fine. So he's running this big giant 18 volt, should last him a couple of years per charge. And I also wired it up, so this one feeds the fan and the controller, the whole system. But I did this 2-prong, so you could run like a wall charger if you wanted, straight through the 2-prong. So let's say you're out in the field, or you're at Kenda, I don't know, you're somewhere and you don't bring your stupid actual battery charger with you, but you bring a small trickle charger that can hook up to a 2-plug or a 2-prong like this. That way you don't ever have to take your battery out. You can just leave it there, unplug this, and charge it. And that really helped. I also added this. This is just a dummy cap. I cut the ends off, pulled the wires out, and filled it with epoxy. So this pops off. That way, I think he's going to run, I'm not going to spoil it, but he wants to run lights off this. An auxiliary light off the 12 volts as well. So I was like, you know what, I'll add a second plug, and you can hook that up if you want too. So he just needs to run another 2-prong on the other side, which are really easy to get. So that's the setup. This feeds the main fan and the controller, and this is how it works. So right now it's 53 degrees. If you just push a button, I have it at a set temperature at 110 right now. So if I wanted to show you how well it works, you hold it down, it starts flashing. Now you can reset the temperature. So I'm going to loop all the way around past 400, and then I'll go to some really low number, and the fan will turn on after it registers. So it's going to blink for a couple of seconds, and then it's going to go. Check this out. Now all I got to do is just raise the temp above 53 and it'll think it's good. So I'll put it at 81, thinks it's good, and then it'll shut off, because it has not reached the 81 degree set point. So boom, all set. So it works pretty good. So if you wanted to just use this as a monitor, you could just put your set point at some much higher temperature that you'll never reach. So, and we're going to do that with this. At this point, this is why I'm bringing you guys here to this point. I'm going to put the radiator on, hook it all up, fill it with coolant, and then I'm going to put the set point really high. And we're going to monitor the temperature with me just putzing around and trying to keep the speed pretty low. That's really all I can do right now. It's not hot outside yet. It's 50 degrees today. It's not hot enough to really put it through the paces and see how well it's going to do. But I can let it idle a lot. I can just go really slow, try to put some load on it and see what temperatures we get. So I can monitor it here. Once I put the thermometer in one of the fins at the bottom of the radiator. And I'm going to run a thermometer cap. This bad boy, I think it's a 1.8 bar or something, 1.6. Let's see if it says. Excuse me. .8, it says right there. .8. So that's nice. That's a high pressure cap, and it'll let me check temperature. So I'll just putz around and I'm going to compare. We've got this temperature gauge here, this thermometer. We have that one on the cap, and Steve is running an old analog one here. Where is it? Right here, if you can see my finger. But he said this thing is bonk. It's all screwed up. He was getting some really stupid temperatures from it. So it'll be kind of nice to have 3 values to compare to see which one is kind of the outlier, if this one actually is going berserk or not. It'll be fun to kind of see how that plays out. So I'm going to run around at +4 timing and see what the temperatures are, see how it behaves, see how hot it gets, see how hot I can get it without the fan running. So I'm going to put the set point real high. Then I'm going to switch to, then I'm going to move it to -2 timing. And we're going to see if there's any significant difference there. And that's the plan. I took this thing for a spin thoroughly. I let it warm up. I know I said I was probably going to show you guys, but it just seemed kind of irrelevant and just a bunch of added time. So I'll give you the quick snapshot. So I let it warm up for about 35 minutes, and it went up to, it got as high as like 250 degrees at the gauge down here. This old analog gauge coming out of the head. And this was a fun experiment that all of you might appreciate. This gauge ran the highest temperature, and then the radiator cap, which is where that comes in from, that ran roughly 20 degrees less. And then the controller, that thermometer's down here on the other side, all the way at the bottom of the radiator. And that read 20 degrees less than the cap. So it all is telling the right story, basically. I think Steve had some concern that this thing was just going absolutely berserk, and this was wrong because it was reading some really high temperatures. And I don't think that's the case anymore. I think he was just running really hot, unfortunately. So I think that's working fairly well. And then and everything else is. The cap, this silly radiator cap, has really been useful to monitor the difference between these two as well. So I got up to about 250 down there. And then the cap was like 230-ish. And the bottom of the radiator was right around 200, funny enough. So almost a 50-degree difference between the highest and lowest point of measurement. And then I took it for a very brief spin, and the temperature quickly came down to 200. And then I was kind of pressed for time, and I just left it at that. I said, you know what? Okay, I'm done. And that was at +4 timing. And I think it's safe to say that I've broken these bearings free in the back now. There's no resistance here. So maybe I should have left this alone, and then I should have suffered through the temperature testing or observation and then tried to blow a bunch of grease through that bearing, but whatever. I got ahead of myself. So it's nice and free now. So I reset the timing at -2 now, and it's fairly warm outside. This temperature is reading 61. I think that's the temperature I have set in the garage, but it's really mild outside. It's nice and warm. So I'm going to fire this thing up, and we're going to go ride around for a minute and see how it behaves temperature wise. Alright, so we are just over 200 degrees at the cap. 200 coming out of the head. It's just under 200 at the cap. Okay guys, that wraps it up. That is the installation for cooling fan. You can see it from here. If you look real close, like I said, all you gotta do is notch this out and twist up a couple of little brackets. I use some aluminum. You can use some steel. I don't think it really matters, but all in all, the cooling system itself works, and it works very well. I was trying to do more than that, which was try to keep the temperatures down. So we reduced timing, and I addressed all sorts of other little things like the the throttle cables were not right at all. It was idling too high. The slides were sitting way up in the air. It was a bunch of really weird stuff. And it was not done by Steve. It was done by somebody else. So that's straightened out. I didn't change jetting. Left it alone. It's a little rich in the mid range. But I'll let Steve tune it to his desire, because he's got a few pounds on me, and you know, it's going to get warmer. Things are going to richen up a little bit more. So. Might be a little early for somebody like me to do that. You know, it's going to be his preference. So all in all, the fan works. It fits really well. You can't really notice it unless you're looking for it, which is really cool. So it's discreet, it's hidden. This side does blow fan right out this vent, which is kind of cool. It's better than being a little bit lower where it would be a little more restricted. So it works, and you guys should all follow Steve's channel. I think it's Revenant Outdoors. That's right. He's got some race videos up there, and hopefully this will force him to do a few more videos this year. That way you guys can kind of get a real life report on how the cooling does for him through the races and stuff. So that pretty much sums it up. If you want to cool your Banshee with a cooling kit, it does fit. You get it from Rocky Mountain. Just get their general kit, and it works. Here, I did find this is what I used for my placement piece. Before he brought his Banshee over, I was fishing this around inside my Banshee to see where this could fit. This is roughly the size of the fan shroud, 4 3/8 in diameter and an inch thick. And that's all I did. So I cut this piece. I asked him for some dimensions. He gave them to me. I cut this piece. I was fishing it around in there, and I told him I think it's going to work. And that's how I was able to kind of come up with a good location. So if you guys do this to your Banshee, let me know. It's going to be fun. I think I might be motivated to do the same to mine in the future. I haven't decided yet. I've been pretty successful with my cooling, the natural cooling on my Banshee with how it's been. So I'm not in a huge rush to do something like that, but it is tempting because it's really cool to have. It gives you that added confidence or insurance, and it's just nice. So go check out Steve's channel, watch some vintage quad racing, some Banshee racing, and good luck if you guys do this.